Something just happened inside Russia's military command that stopped analysts in Washington cold. Vladimir Putin has appointed a general implicated in the Bucha massacre as the new commander of Russia's entire air force. Not a division commander, not a regional air defense chief. The commander of every Russian aircraft, every bomber, every fighter jet, and every missile launched from the air at Ukrainian cities. The man Putin chose to lead Russia's air force carried out operations in Syria before Ukraine. He commanded Russian forces during the period when Bucha, a quiet suburb northwest of Kyiv, became the name of a war crime that shocked the entire world. When Russian forces withdrew from Bucha in late March 2022, what they left behind was documented by journalists, satellite imagery, and international investigators. Bodies of civilians in the streets, evidence of executions, torture, deliberate targeting of non-combatants. The International Criminal Court has been investigating Bucha. Multiple nations have called for accountability, and Putin's response to all of it is to promote the general connected to those events to the highest air command position in the Russian military. This is not just a personnel decision, this is a message, and Washington is paying very close attention to what that message means. To understand why this appointment is so significant, you need to understand what it reveals about where Putin's military is right now. Russia entered this war in 2022 with one of the most experienced air forces in the world. Hundreds of advanced fighter jets, bomber fleets capable of reaching deep into Ukrainian territory, sophisticated air defense integration. Russia's aerospace forces were supposed to establish air superiority over Ukraine within days and hold it indefinitely. That did not happen. Ukraine's air defenses, supplied and supported by American and Allied weapons systems, have denied Russia air superiority for over 3 years. Russian aircraft cannot fly freely over Ukrainian territory without risking destruction. The advanced fighter jets that were supposed to dominate Ukrainian skies are flying their missions from distances that limit their effectiveness, launching glide bombs from positions where Ukrainian air defense cannot reach them, rather than operating freely in contested airspace. The previous Air Force commander was replaced because results were not meeting expectations. Now Putin has chosen his replacement. And the choice of a general connected to Bucha tells you something precise about what Putin is looking for right now. He is not looking for innovation. He is not looking for someone who will restructure Russia's aerospace strategy from the ground up and find new answers to the drone and air defense challenges that have defined this war. He is looking for loyalty, for someone who has demonstrated, in the most unambiguous terms possible, a willingness to execute orders regardless of what those orders produce. This pattern has a name in military history. It is called negative selection. When a military organization consistently promotes based on loyalty over competence, the average capability of its leadership declines with every promotion cycle. The commanders who ask difficult questions, who push back on flawed operational plans, who identify problems before they become catastrophes, are systematically filtered out. What remains are officers who have learned that agreeing with the commander is safer than being right. Russia's military has been running this selection process since the first weeks of the war, when generals who reported battlefield realities honestly found their careers ending while those who delivered optimistic assessments continued to advance. The appointment of the Bucha general is not an anomaly in this pattern. It is its logical conclusion. Bucha was not a military operation that went wrong. Independent investigators, satellite imagery from before and after the Russian withdrawal, and testimony from survivors all point to deliberate, systematic targeting of civilians. Promoting the commander connected to those events is Putin telling his military what he values most right now. Not effectiveness, obedience. The appointment did not happen in isolation. It happened in the same week that the Institute for the Study of War released an assessment that revealed something Russia has been trying to hide. In April 2026, Russian forces suffered a net loss of territory controlled in the Ukrainian theater for the first time since Ukraine's August 2024 incursion into Kursk Oblast. Read that carefully. Net loss. Not a slowdown in advances, not a pause. Russia lost more ground than it gained in April. the spring offensive that Putin promised would break Ukraine and deliver, the Donbass recorded a month where the territory balance moved against Russia. This has not happened since Ukraine's Kursk operation nearly 2 years ago. Before that, it had not happened since the Kharkiv counteroffensive of 2022. Russia has been grinding forward, slowly and at catastrophic human cost, for most of the past year and a half. April ended that streak. The numbers surrounding that net territorial loss make the picture even clearer. Ukrainian forces hit 38 Russian air defense assets in April alone. 38. Each one destroyed opens a gap in Russia's protective umbrella. Each gap allows the next Ukrainian strike to reach targets that were previously shielded. The systematic dismantling of Russia's air defense network is accelerating, and the effect is now visible in the territorial balance. Russia's spring offensive casualties reached record levels simultaneously. More than 35,000 Russian personnel lost in March. The April figures are still being compiled, but Ukrainian military sources indicate the pace has not decreased. Russia is losing soldiers at unprecedented rates, losing air defense systems at unprecedented rates, and now losing territory in net terms for the first time in nearly 2 years. The air defense losses deserve particular attention because of what they mean for the trajectory of this war. Ukraine's unmanned systems forces did not destroy 38 Russian air defense assets in April by accident. Each strike was the product of months of preparation, intelligence collection, and systematic targeting that has been building since Ukraine began its campaign to blind Russia's sensor networks. Each destroyed air defense system opens a corridor. Each corridor enables deeper strikes against the targets those systems were protecting: ammunition depots, command centers, logistics hubs, airfields. The compounding effect of 38 destroyed systems in a single month means that May's strike campaign will be able to reach targets that were shielded in April, and June's campaign will reach further still. The degradation is not linear. It accelerates with every additional system removed from Russia's protective network. And Putin's response to this crisis is to appoint the Butcher of Bucha to lead his air force. The Victory Day parade provides the backdrop against which this appointment lands with its full weight. For the first time since 2027, Moscow's Victory Day parade on May 9th will proceed without a column of military hardware. No tanks rolling through Red Square, no armored vehicles, no missile systems on display. Russia's Ministry of Defense cited a terrorist threat. The real reason is visible in every battlefield report from the past 3 months. The equipment that would normally roll through Red Square is burning in Ukraine. And the decision to hide that reality from the Russian public on the day that is supposed to celebrate Russian military invincibility required canceling the hardware display that has defined Victory Day for 8 decades. Putin is now building the leadership team that will manage Russia's military through a period of unprecedented losses and territorial setbacks. His criteria for that leadership team are becoming visible in his appointments. The Bucha general gets the Air Force. Senior officials connected to battlefield failures in Ukraine remain in their positions. Commanders who suggest strategic adjustment, who push back on operational decisions, who advocate for anything other than continued offensive pressure regardless of cost, do not last. The Syrian precedent is worth examining closely. The general Putin has appointed to lead his air force previously commanded Russia's troop contingent in Syria. Russia's Syria campaign was characterized by strikes on hospitals, markets, and civilian infrastructure that were documented by international investigators and condemned by Western governments. The tactics that worked in Syria, overwhelming firepower applied without discrimination against civilian populations to break resistance, failed in Ukraine. Ukrainian resistance did not break. Instead, it hardened. The population that Russia expected to capitulate became the most motivated fighting force in Europe. The commander who applied Syrian tactics to Bucha is now being asked to apply whatever lesson he draws from that experience to the entirety of Russia's air campaign. What worked against Syrian civilians is not working against Ukrainian air defenses. That disconnect is now Putin's Air Force commander's problem to solve. This is the same dynamic that destroyed the Tsarist military in 1917. Not external pressure alone, The selection of loyal commanders over competent ones until the gap between what the military claimed it was doing and what it was actually capable of doing became impossible to bridge. Here is what Putin's appointment of the Bucha general means for America, and it is the dimension most coverage fails to recognize. Every war crime documented in Bucha, every investigation conducted by international prosecutors, every witness testimony collected since March 2022 is part of a permanent record that the United States and its allies have been building. The appointment of a general connected to those events to Russia's highest air command position is not just a Russian domestic decision. It is a statement about accountability, about impunity, and about what Russia's leadership believes the consequences of its actions will be. America's response to that statement matters, not just diplomatically, militarily. What often gets overlooked is this: the weapons America provided Ukraine, the air defense systems that have denied Russia air superiority for 3 years, the intelligence support that allows Ukraine to strike Russian air bases and command centers, the ATACMS missiles that have reached targets Russia believed were beyond Ukrainian reach. These are not just military assets. They are the tools that have forced Russia into the position where appointing the Butcher of Bucha to lead the Air Force feels like the best available option. Russia is not promoting war criminals to its highest commands because it has better options. Russia is promoting them because the commanders with genuine strategic competence have been expended in a campaign that has produced net territorial loss in April for the first time in nearly 2 years. The international dimension compounds the domestic one. Every NATO member nation that has documented Bucha, contributed evidence to ICC investigations, or publicly named Russian commanders connected to those events is now watching Putin elevate one of those commanders to his highest air command position. The diplomatic signal that sends is unmistakable. Russia is not moving toward accountability. Russia is not moderating its approach in response to international pressure. Russia is doubling down on the commanders and the methods that produced the documented war crimes of 2022. For every Western government that has staked political capital on the argument that supporting Ukraine is about upholding international law and human rights, Putin just handed them the clearest possible evidence that their argument was correct. Every American taxpayer who has supported Ukraine's defense should understand what their investment has produced. A Russian Air Force that cannot achieve air superiority over Ukraine. An air defense network that has lost 38 systems in a single month. A spring offensive that recorded net territorial loss. A Victory Day parade stripped of its military hardware, and a desperate leadership appointment that tells the world exactly how limited Putin's options have become. Our men and women who trained Ukrainian forces, provided targeting intelligence, and ensured the weapons reached the front lines are part of every Russian air defense system destroyed in April. They are part of the net territorial loss Russia suffered for the first time in nearly 2 years. They are part of the strategic pressure that produced a personnel decision so revealing that it stopped analysts in Washington cold. This is what American commitment to allied defense produces over time, not just battlefield results. The exposure of a regime making desperate choices with increasingly limited options. A general implicated in the Bucha massacre now commands Russia's entire air force. The spring offensive recorded net territorial loss in April for the first time since Kursk. 38 air defense systems destroyed in a single month, a Victory Day parade stripped of its military hardware, record casualties month after month, an economy running a $61 billion quarterly deficit funded by oil revenue that Ukrainian drones are systematically destroying. Putin is building his wartime leadership team. The qualifications he values are becoming clear: not strategic innovation, not military effectiveness, not the ability to adapt to a battlefield that has changed beyond recognition from what Russian doctrine anticipated. Loyalty, the willingness to follow orders regardless of consequences. That approach failed Tsarist Russia in 1917, it failed the Soviet Union in Afghanistan, and it is failing Russia in Ukraine, as the April territorial balance confirms. The man who commanded forces during Bucha now commands every Russian aircraft in this war. Every bomber, every fighter jet, every air-launched missile heading toward Ukrainian cities. Is Putin's appointment of the Butcher of Bucha a sign that Russia has run out of competent commanders willing to take command of a failing air campaign? Or does this general have something that changes what Russia's Air Force is capable of doing? Drop your answer below. I read every single comment. If you want daily coverage that does not sugarcoat what is actually happening, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. I post every single day, and I am not stopping.